Hey, it's Mike Hambright with FlipNerd.com. Welcome back for another exciting VIP interview where I interview some of the most successful real estate investing experts and entrepreneurs in our industry to help you learn and grow. Today, I'm joined by Tim Mai. Tim is a real estate investor, an author, a speaker, and he's one of the first well-known investors to use virtual assistants in his real estate investing business many years back. So he's gone on to teach lots of others how to use virtual assistants, and today we're going to talk about just that, how to use virtual assistants in your real estate investing business. It's interesting stuff. I myself use virtual assistants, and I think it's a great way to help scale your business up. Before we get started, though, let's take a moment to recognize our featured sponsors. RealtyMogul.com is an online marketplace for real estate investing, connecting borrowers and capital from accredited and institutional investors. Get a rehab loan fast and close in as little as 10 days. Rates start as low as 9%. We'd also like to thank National Real Estate Insurance Group, the nation's leading provider of insurance to the residential real estate investor market. From individual properties to large-scale investors, National Real Estate Insurance Group is ready to serve you. Please note, the views and opinions expressed by the individuals in this program do not necessarily reflect those of FlipNerd.com or any of its partners, advertisers, or affiliates. Please consult professionals before making any investment or tax decisions, as real estate investing can be risky. Hey, Tim, welcome to the show.
Hey, Mike.
Good to see you.
Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah. So, it's an interesting. Well, we're going to talk about virtual assistants here in a second, and I know you see the power of it because you're one of the first early adopters, and it's so widespread right now for people to use virtual assistants, and
Right.
It'll be interesting to talk about, your perspective on how to use them. I think that's where a lot of people struggle at first, is how to find them, and then what can they do and what can they not do. But before we dive into that, why don't you have an interesting story of how you got started in real estate and how you even came to the U.S. and things like that. Why don't you tell us about Tim?
Yeah, sure. I've definitely had a pretty wild childhood, right? My brother and I came here to the U.S. from Vietnam when I was 12 years old. But what happened is, we had to escape out of Vietnam. And the reason why we had to escape out of Vietnam is because after the war ended in 1975, the communist government took over, and you can't just leave Vietnam.
Right.
In order for you to leave, you have to escape. And my whole family had tried to escape out of Vietnam like many times. I remember when I was about 6 years old, our whole family were trying to escape, and we got caught, and the whole family got put in jail.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then when my brother turned 18, when the way it works over there, when you turn 18, they automatically draft you into the military, and so a lot of boys will either escape out of Vietnam, or they'll cut off their forefinger, the index finger, so that way they can't put the trigger.
Oh, wow.
And so that's how my brother and I decided to leave Vietnam. And imagine this, right? Imagine like you're on a 24-foot fishing boat, and there's 37 of you. I was the only child on the boat, so it was like super tight. We're literally like sardines on that boat.
Wow.
And we floated out at sea for 7 days and 6 nights. And on the 4th day, we got hijacked by 5 pirate boats.
Oh, my goodness.
And yeah, like, when that happened, I was so scared. I was like, what's going to happen to us?
So how old were you, Tim?
I was 11 at that time.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like, I was asking my brother, like, what's going to happen to us? I've heard so many horror stories about how when pirates hijack your boat, they'll rape the woman and they'll throw the man off the boat. And then they came over, and they took whatever they could find. They stripped the adults, and whatever they could find they took. And luckily they left us on our way after that. And then we made it to a Malaysian refugee camp a few days after that. And then, fast forward, I was in the refugee camp for a year, and then I came to the U.S. when I was 12. And I came here in Houston, and my brother and I used to live in this little 2-bedroom apartment that was housing subsidized. And at any given time, there were like 8 to 12 other single guys living there.
Oh, wow.
As an investor, to think about it now, like we should have rented a duplex or a fourplex and sublease some of those rooms out to those guys. Yeah. But they're the types of guys that probably, wouldn't pay their rent anyways, because they'd rather be in jail than out of jail, because at least they'll get fed.
Yeah.
I mean, I can tell you, like, so many days I came home from middle school, opened up the refrigerator, and there was literally nothing to eat. It's like there's like a little, like 1 gallon of water, right? And that was all there was in the refrigerator. And yeah, so fast forward a little bit, I was blessed enough to be able to, finish school. And after school, I actually moved up to Richardson in Dallas to work for an IT company up there. And when I was there, I was like, I thought, yes, I've made it. I achieved my American dream, the dream that, my parents had for us to come to America, the land of opportunity, get well educated and find a good job. I mean, isn't that what all of our parents wanted for us, right? And so when I was working there, I thought, yes, I made it. And then in April of 2002, so after 2.5 years of working there, they called all of us into the office and said, you are all fired. The company is filing bankruptcy and we're laying everybody off in 60 days. And so, I mean, I was crushed. I was like, oh man, what am I going to do now? Here I thought I made it. And now I have to start over again. And I was like, what am I going to do next? At that time, the IT industry was very hard to find jobs, after the .com bust. And, and so I've always wanted to have my own business. So I started to look into, well, what can I do? And luckily there was a free real estate seminar in town. And so I decided to attend that seminar. And at that seminar, they told us that for $3,000, they'll teach us how to get rich in real estate with no money down, no credit, and no experience.
Okay.
And when I heard that, I was like, yes, that sounds like me.
Yeah.
I was pretty new to
do you know, can you say, do you remember who it was?
It was Robert Allen did the 1 minute, the 1 Minute Millionaire book.
Yeah, okay.
Mark Victor Henson. So if you look at the back of that book, I'm actually listed on the back as one of the Millionaire Eagles, which is a part of that program that they did to launch the book. And yeah, so I attend, so I did that. I was so skeptical. I was like, man, what if this doesn't work? Like, I have my credit card that I can put this $3,000 on, but if it doesn't work, how am I going to pay the bills when that comes, right? But somewhere in the presentation, they share with us that, over 80% of self-made millionaires invest in real estate. And so it's like, wow, well, I want to be a self-made millionaire, and if that's what other self-made millionaires do, then that's what I need to do. Like, I need to follow their footsteps. Long story short, I did not make it work in 30 days. It actually took me 6 months of door knocking on pre-foreclosures to finally get my first deal. And so, however, that first deal that I did, I decided to rehab it. Made a little bit over $50,000 on the deal. So I mean, it made the whole 6 months worthwhile. Right. and obviously, it got me hooked into the whole world of real estate investing. Since then, my team and I have bought and sold well over 500 properties. Wow. Right here in Houston, and we've really just grown a lot. You mentioned about virtual assistant in 2007. I decided to I had some assistants already, but I decided to hire another assistant. So I placed an ad on Craigslist. I got 120 something like applicants, right? Like people interested, and I interviewed 3, and I hired 0. I was like, man, so I was talking to a friend of mine. Who's an internet marketer, and told him about, man, I'm trying to hire an assistant, and I got all these people interested, but I couldn't hire any of them. And he said, well, Tim, I have 21 virtual assistants in the Philippines. You might want to look into that. I was like, really? How does that work? I mean, this is like, imagine like beginning of 2007, like virtual assistants was non-existent in the real estate, market,
Sure, yeah.
in the real estate industry. And so I started looking into that. I went on Google and did some research and found this website called va4u.com, the number 4, the letter u.com, which is a resume bank kind of website for virtual assistants. And that's where I hired my very first virtual assistant. What she did for me was, all she did was calling for sell by owners and getting the seller questionnaire forms filled out. Her job was, at least 10 seller questionnaires per day. That was it.
Okay.
I figure, the cost per lead, would have been like less than $2 a lead or something like that. It was very inexpensive. That first virtual assistant, I was paying her $800 a month. And so then from there, we grew from 1 virtual assistant to 11 virtual assistants. And I found out that very first one that I hired, and she became a manager to manage my other virtual assistant, has been taking the money that I pay her to pay the other virtual assistants and kept them. And delayed their payments and told them that I wasn't paying on time. So obviously, I let her go and restarted a new team. At one point, I grew our virtual assistants team to 30 full-time and over 20 part-time, doing a variety of different things. At one point in my business, I decided to also provide the pre-foreclosure list here in Houston. So they were working both my real estate business as well as my foreclosure list business. If for some of the listeners might have heard, because at one point I had my virtual assistants calling wholesalers all across the U.S. looking for deals. It's funny because I forgot what year. I think it was in 2007 or 2008. I don't remember. I was speaking at an event for Mike Collins' Rehab List, and a few of the attendees in the audience said, "Yeah, I've been getting calls from your virtual assistants. That's so cool. That's how you do that." At that
point, were you buying houses virtually, like across the country, or?
Yeah, well, what we did was we found wholesalers with deals, and then we blasted out to our list of buyers.
Okay.
And like one of the things that is sort of commonly now with co-wholesaling and flex option. I was also the person that invented flex option. It didn't exist before me, but invented the flex options to be able to gain the right to market these wholesale deals. Yeah, I've done a lot of stuff with virtual assistants.
Yeah. Well, the great thing about it is it starts to open up opportunities of ways you can scale your business or go into new things that makes it, cost effective.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So in your real estate investing business, let's talk a little bit about what the typical roles are or responsibilities that you have virtual assistants take care of. And then after that, we'll kind of talk about some of the things that you may not feel comfortable outsourcing to a VA.
Right. So I have a VA that answers my calls live. And so that VA, basically do all the pre-screening, all the pre-negotiation, and then also run comps to see like if it's a hot lead or not. If it's a hot lead, then notify our acquisition people right away. So that way we can like act on those leads much faster than the ones that are not so hot.
And to clarify, tell us where you're using virtual assistants from, where you're primarily hiring them from the Philippines, correct?
Correct.
Mhm.
Yeah. So most of our virtual assistants are well, they live in the Philippines, but like for example, the one that takes my calls from sellers, he is an American, a Caucasian American who happens to live in the Philippines.
Okay.
But yeah, virtual assistants are just any assistants that that work outside of your home office or office.
Right. Okay. And so that was one of my questions, because that, in my experience, I have virtual assistants on my team. The common probably area where folks are a little hesitant to have virtual assistants is taking lead calls, in my experience, just because it's such a valuable, it's such an important part of your business that you don't want there to be any concern from the seller's perspective that they're talking to an overseas person.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, this is where like having a good virtual assistant that speaks English really well. And I've had Filipino virtual assistants who there's no way you could tell that they were, not American.
Right.
Like has the American accent, speaks much better English than I do. Right. And I'm like for me, I'm not too concerned, because if I was taking the calls, like the seller wouldn't know whether I live in the U.S. or not, because I have an accent by default anyways.
Right.
But yeah, having someone. What's more important than where they live and their accent is that what's more important is that they they can understand the sellers well, and the sellers can understand them well.
Right.
Because the question of where they're from, like really doesn't come up.
Right. Yeah, and that's part of it is when you say to understand them, you're talking about can understand like geographically, or can understand kind of their can be kind of sympathetic to their situation.
A combination of both, but like can just understand them, like what they're saying.
Okay.
And some of that has to do with like cultural differences. So like they're saying one thing, but they might the virtual assistant might not understand what they're trying to say.
Right.
So like just understand, just like the American English, right?
Yeah.
Because and so that's the most
Texan English at that.
Yeah. Yeah, and like my virtual assistant, he's really cool. He even speaks Spanish as well. And so if the seller doesn't speak, like if the seller only speaks Spanish, he can also communicate with them as well.
Okay.
And so there's no, a lot of time when we think about virtual assistants, we tend to box them. Like we box them like, oh, they're supposed to be, Filipino or Indian. They're supposed to have these accents or not. I mean, that's not true at all. Like you can find any kind of, ethnicity in that happens to be virtual, right? Like in my case here's a real as American as he can get that lives in the Philippines.
Yeah.
And so yeah. So once you get yourself out of that box, and you can then begin to like, well, who do you want to hire? Do you want to hire, an American? Do you want to hire a Hispanic person? You want, like, they're all available, virtually for you to hire.
Right. So talk some more about some of the things so you have them taking your lead calls, doing some initial screening, and kind of walk through your whole business model, like of the roles that they can play, and then let's talk about what you typically don't feel comfortable outsourcing.
Yeah, man, there's really nothing that I don't feel comfortable outsourcing. I have my virtual assistants. Yeah, I've done everything from taking the lead call to running the comps. To buying stuff for me, so where my virtual assistants have my credit card information, subscriptions, and I still like to have someone someone strong on the ground. I think that for the virtual assistants to negotiate like the whole deal over the phone, I think can be a little bit tricky, and so I like it to be where they pre-negotiate as much as they can. They get the sellers within a certain range. Right? With like if we know that 80%, ideally the virtual assistants be able to identify like 80% chance this is a deal. And then our acquisition people here in Houston can then go meet with them and get it under contract from there.
Okay.
But I've done it where the virtual assistants even got the deal on the contract as well. So
Wow.
that's not limited to that. It's just that, especially like in a market, and a lot of it has to do with the market that you're in too. We're in the market right now. Houston is like super hot. There's lots of investors. Whenever you go look at a property, there's other investors that are going after the same property as well, and so you gotta be on top of it a little bit more.
Right.
But in the slower market where we didn't have as much competition, the VA did most of the work. And so yeah, there's I treat my virtual assistants not much different than a in-house assistant.
Right.
And some of my virtual assistants, they've been with me since 2007, so it's been with me for a long time. And yeah, so I treat them just like another staff. So it's not, and like if there's really nothing that, for me anyways, I'm like, there's nothing that I care to hold, to hide from them or hold from them or not comfortable for them to do.
Sure. Talk a little bit about how you oversee, like some of the tools that you use to oversee, some of the common tools that they use, and then maybe training and how you do things virtually that has to happen no matter where somebody works, I guess.
Right. So Skype is our sort of our main communication tool.
Yeah.
For me to communicate with them. And when I do training, I'll get on Skype and do a screen sharing, and just train them through that and record that session, and then from there they can watch it from there.
Okay.
Or future virtual assistants can watch it from there. So Skype is our primary tool. And then same thing when they're taking incoming calls, we have a Skype phone number for them. So as the business owner, we have the Skype manager account,
right,
which allows us to then add the Skype accounts underneath us, and so we can control the phone numbers. But yeah, my virtual assistants over there that answers the calls, get a Skype number, so the phone rings directly to them. So Skype is a tool that we use a lot, and then for like hiring and testing them out, we'll take them through SurveyMonkey to pre-screen them and have things for them to do, like record a video and post it on YouTube and let me know like why we should hire you, for example. And then we'll also get them on Skype to do different tests. I don't do the hiring process anymore. My main virtual assistant does. She's the one that interviews and hire other virtual assistants.
Okay.
But yeah, she'll do different kind of tests. Like if we, if it's a role that we need them to somewhat be sufficient with like technology and computer use, we'll tell her like, okay, open up Excel, go to this website, copy and paste the content of that website into this Excel form and sort column D by ascending order, right? So we don't care that they necessarily know how to do that. If they know how to do that, that's great. That tells us a lot about their capability. But if they can like quickly go on Google and search how to do that, then we're fine with that. And of course, different roles. Like I have programmers that are virtual assistants also. So their testing is a little bit different. We'll tell them, okay, I want you to have create a small program that prints these numbers out on the screen, and see how they do that. But depending on what role we're hiring them for, we'll have different kind of tests for them.
Sure. And talk a little bit about one thing that real estate investors that are very frugal always want to know about the money part of it. So talk about kind of a range of what you pay virtual assistants based on let's just say more of the administrative type folks that you use in a real estate business.
Right. So there's many. I have a pretty wide range of how much we pay our virtual assistants. It depends a lot on several different things. Number one, obviously, it depends on what they do, and the second thing it depends on where they live. So if they live in a little village somewhere where their living expenses is a lot cheaper than if they live in a main city like Manila, where the living expenses is a lot higher, the one that lives in a small village expects a lot less in pay. So for example, I have virtual assistants from $250 a month to $1,000 a month. So it's a pretty wide range, but I guess generally speaking, sort of that $600 a month, $600 a month is very common, and also too, it depends on who, if you're hiring them directly and managing them, versus if you're going through a call center,
right.
Or like a staffing solution type service.
Right.
If you're hiring them directly and you're managing them directly, obviously that's a lot cheaper than if you go through a company. If you go through a company, typically it's going to be $800 to $1,200 a month.
Yeah. Okay. Well, getting towards the end of our time here, Tim. So tell us real fast where some common places are for that you use to recruit virtual assistants.
Yeah. So a lot of our recruits, because we have an established virtual assistant base, so a lot of our recruits are just referrals.
Yeah.
Like church referrals is one of my favorite places to recruit virtual assistants.
Yeah.
But we also place ads like on Craigslist in the Philippines as well. But there's other services like Odesk, virtual staff finders are great services.
That's what I use.
Yeah, we used to use Odesk a lot when we were managing, when we wanted to monitor like their work. What Odesk has a software that basically take a screenshot of their computer every few minutes. And so for in the beginning we used to do a lot of those kind of monitoring, but we found out that it was just a lot of work just to monitor that, and it was just too micromanagement for us. And so we moved our model to where it's like, look, everybody has sort of a result thing that they need to produce, and so we manage the results more so than like what they do minute to minute.
Right.
But yeah, those are a couple of different tools. We use this service called Remitly to pay them. I used to also use Zoom.com to pay them as well. But Zoom changed their business model where they don't take on business clients anymore. It's only friends and family that sends money.
Yeah, say the other one again. Remitly.
Yeah, Remitly. So Remit REMITLY. Okay. Remitly. It depends on how much money you're sending over there. If you have just a few virtual assistants, those kind of services is sufficient. But like when I used to have 30 virtual assistants, I used to send a lot of money at a time. I would use this service called PNB RCI, that's Philippines National Bank Remittance Centers, and they have PNB is I think it's like the biggest bank in the Philippines.
Okay.
Well, they have these little sort of money transfer remittance centers around the U.S. And Houston there's one that happens to be not that far away from our office. And so I used to go there and and send $15,000-$20,000 at a time for much cheaper than if we would just like wire them the money.
Yeah. I use PayPal, although I sometimes get complaints about the fees are coming out of their end.
Yeah. Yeah, PayPal's more expensive for them.
Yeah.
So
it's very easy for me just to send from my phone or wherever I'm at. But
with Middle East, the same thing. It's very easy. I mean, they have a website too. Yeah, it's also very inexpensive.
Yeah.
For both parties, but so those are the tools that we use.
That's awesome. Well, why don't you maybe take a minute just to share the biggest reasons why VAs are, if for real estate investors that are not using virtual assistants right now, some of the biggest reasons why you think they should consider that.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you're brand new and you haven't done a deal yet, then, having a virtual assistant doesn't make as much sense for you. I suggest you to get focused, do a deal, make some money, and then you can afford one.
Yeah.
But if you have some money, hiring a virtual, you got to look at it from a cost per deal basis, right? Like that's how I look at it. I budget my cost, out of 1,500, ideally, no, I don't have to spend more than $1,500 in marketing to get one deal. So if I'm paying a virtual assistant, let's just say $750 a month, that means that if in 2 months that virtual assistant bring me one deal, right, out of them making cold calls to for sale by owners, to landlords, then that's worth it for me. So I look at it from that perspective.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, they can do so much for you. They can not just take your incoming calls from your marketing, but they can do outbound calls to different leads as well. And so that's, you're paying them, typically, $3-4 an hour. And so if you make at least, $7-8 an hour, right? Then having them doing, paying someone $3-4 an hour to do, to find more deals for you makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, great. Well, hey Tim, thanks so much for sharing your insights. We're going to share. I'll put some of the links we talked about today down below the video for folks to learn more. And if folks want to learn more about you and some of the stuff you're doing, where should they go? Yeah,
so our website is prosperitygroup.com. Which is a local Houston real estate investing group, and we flip houses here in Houston, and we also run monthly networking meetings, and we also do a seminar to teach other people on how to how to wholesale and flip houses once a quarter. So, typically February, May, August, November is when we do our seminar. So I'd love for you to come out. Check it out.
Yeah, tell us that site one more time.
prosperitygroup.com.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. Well, hey, Tim, thanks so much for sharing time with us today. It's good to see you, and I'm actually going to see you again in a few weeks, I think. So. Yep. All right, buddy.
Mike, yeah, thank you for having me. Yeah, thanks everybody for listening in.
Yeah, thank you, Tim. Have a great day.
All right, you too.
Are you a member of FlipNerd.com, the most robust real estate investing platform in existence, where you can find off-market wholesale deals and great vendors literally in your market? You can get access to advice from experts and learn about local clubs and events right in your backyard. If not, please visit FlipNerd.com and register for a free account. You can register in less than a minute. It's pretty much the coolest site that's ever existed in the real estate investing industry, so get on over to FlipNerd.com.